He's a back. Yes, so hi everyone. We are in so many ways back to some kind of a normal. This was a very intensive time with all the high holidays, with of course Pesach first, but then Yom HaShoah and Yom Zikaron, Yom Ha'atzmaut, and so it was very intensive. But now we can go back to normal. Normal is also connected to studying, and so go back to a routine and to all of the things. And for some reason, the rabbis decided that the best person to teach the rules of shechita and the rules of melicha, the rules of slaughtering and salting the animals was the vegetarian rabbi. And I can start by telling you that when we wrote each other to understand exactly what I'm supposed to teach, and I wrote no problem, I'll take shechita and melicha, but autocorrect changed my melicha to mechila. Mechila is to ask for forgiveness. And all the rabbis and made jokes about me that, of course, I will be the one who writes shechita and mechila, slaughtering and then asking for forgiveness for that sin. So, yeah, so this is to introduce the very, from one side, a very complicated topic. From the other side, this is the most simple topic you will ever learn. Can any of you guess why this is the most simple topic you will ever learn?
Because we live in a society that we just go to the supermarket, that we really don't need to do it ourselves.
Exactly. I don't know if Moshe David said the similar thing. That didn't hear its Shiur from last time, but nothing of what we are going to learn today. Maybe one thing, but like again, very rarely. Maybe one for those who really want to do that. Haven't met anyone using it. All the rules we'll study today doesn't exist anymore. Like they exist, but not in our. We buy the meat ready. Those who eat meat, it's so the rules are that you need to keep is you need to go to the right supermarket and buy the right kosher meat. That's the rules of shechita and melicha. So, because today, when I was a child, even I think until 20 years ago, you could still get in the shops in Israel meat that was not salted, not ready to, and we will come to the differences about that. Today you can't find it anymore. But basically, if you don't slaughter by yourself at home, you will not reach a situation where you need to know these rules. When I was a child, I remember my mother salting and making it kosher. And if any of you, those from Denmark, for example, that will read the book that my great grandmother wrote, and still so many people love it. Lots of Jewish recipes she had in that book, but it's a book about the Jewish kitchen, and salting fills quite a lot of explanation, because that is something that was very big at that time, not so long ago. So it's important to learn them to understand what is happening to our meat, and also to know what is the basics if a situation will come that can be approached. But as they said to start with, we don't use this anymore because we buy meat that is already ready for us. So let's start from the very, very basic. I will share the rule. What we're going through now is something like in a short session of less than 1 hour, we're going to go through like rules that are lots of masachtot in the Talmud, and in the like so much is written about it. Like I spent many months to learn all these details, and we're doing it so quickly because it's not relevant, but it also tells you how much we are not going to go through today in the depth of the thing. So if someone thinks it's too shallow and we didn't touch and go down deep into all the rules, you're very welcome to study them. If you want to, you can become a shochet, but especially here in Scandinavia, it's relevant only in Finland, because both Denmark, Norway, and Sweden are countries where it's forbidden to slaughter kosher-wise. The rules are old, so I actually don't know the situation in Sweden exactly, but I know for sure that Norway and Denmark it's not possible. So it's also changes a lot. Let's start from the sort. What do you know about like the rules of? You talked with Moshe David about which animals, right? And the fact that there are animals that are allowed and not allowed, and so on. Now we're going to talk about how. And the first source that is I thought that the Talmud Chulin talks about the most. The one from, wait a second. Here. Sorry, I just need to find the right one. There. Yes. So the Torah says that when you slaughter you should start from your cattle and your sheep. You should do it kasher tziviticha, as I have commanded you. And that is connected to a rule that doesn't exist today. First of all, that it was connected to the place. It was supposed to be in the temple. Like you couldn't just slaughter wherever you wanted. It was connected to worshiping God. Like there was no, all the eating of meat was connected in some way to holiness. You had to connect it to the worship, but especially the part that is relevant for us today is kasher tziviticha, and the Talmud says explicitly that where as I have commanded you, kasher tziviticha, there are specific rules that you need to follow. Now, the thing that we have a few things that we want to avoid when you have the rules of the slaughtering, and this is the situation of coming into a status that the animal is not allowed to be in, right? Which animals are we not allowed to eat? Now I don't talk about not about which kind of animals, what status of animals. What did you study before? Help me here. In which form can't we eat an animal? In which ways?
Raw or dead?
Yes. So Paulina, can you just say a few more words about it? What do you mean by that?
So, for example, if an animal is dead by an accident, or if it's raw, meaning that it's not cooked, even though it's kosher, then that would mean that you can still not eat it if it's not cooked. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm biking, so I don't think that much.
Okay. So but when you say the word raw, like an important part that you probably studied last week is ever min achai, which I think Moshe David touched last time, taking a piece from a living creature. So that is so that's ever min achai is the basic law that already comes to Noach. It's not only the Jewish law; it's also the Noachidis law. That's relevant for all people. Not allowed to eat from a living creature. And yes, Tikva?
Also, we cannot eat the blood from the.
Yeah, so that's the last part that will come at the end, but it's connected. You're right that Ever Min Achai is also connected to the blood because it's as it says in the Sefer Bereshit, Ach basar benafsho damo lo tochelu. You can't eat the meat with its soul, with the blood, and that is what's connected to that. And later on, this is what brought. So we expand the rule of eating from a living creature also to include the aspect of the blood. Yes, ma'am?
And then torn animal like that, that is torn or something sick animal that would die like within within the next year?
Yes. Yes, so we have the two more. You did your homework. I'm very happy. Trefa and nevela. Trefa is nevela is an animal who's already dead, either natural death or an accident, or an animal that was slaughtered improperly. So that's a nevela. And trefa is it can be an animal that there was exactly as you said, something that was wrong, and it can die within the year and such. So these are like the basic categories. All of these are relevant not to all animals. That is also very important. All of these rules are relevant for chickens and for like I would say big animals, but only those who walk on the earth. So chickens and cows, cattle, all of these animals, the giraffes, but it doesn't apply to fish. And there's one more category that we almost don't touch, but there are some who eat. Dania, I can see you.
Birds.
No. So birds, we do have these rules of, but
The
Insects.
Insect.
yeah, insects, grasshopper, how it's called,
grasshoppers. Yeah.
yeah. That's this is what they called in English too.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, okay, I do that. So these are relevant for. These are not under the same categories. It's important because fish. That's also why you're allowed to buy fish from every regular shops in the around. There are other rules applying to fish, but that we're not going to touch today. So
But
this is like the basic
Jair, you need
Yes.
even to say that not all the grasshopper are kosher. There are just, I think, 4 or 5.
Of course, yeah,
types.
there's specific.
And we don't eat
also,
because we don't know which one.
Paula, not only that we don't need them. The only the specific tradition in
Yemen, I think.
Yemenite Jews who eat the specific kinds of grasshoppers don't go out and eat grasshoppers from the market outside. It's we don't do that anymore. But they say it's a great snack. I don't know, and And but I have a friend who tried, like that when these arbe, the classic grasshoppers, those from the book of Exodus, they come to Israel once in a while, because there are lots in Africa, and they do come to Israel a few times. Then the people who have a tradition to eat them go and hunt them, and I don't know, maybe you can try once with some Yemenite Jews who know the tradition of that. We don't eat them anymore. So the rules of shechita, as it said here, the rules of shechita come from the oral Torah, as it stated in Masechet Chulin, and here we have the 5 principle of the simanim, the 5 things that you need to do when you do a proper shechita. Okay, and here we have all of these are connected to I would say 2 aspects that we need to do. The one is that the animal won't be that we won't kill an animal before like we won't hurt it in a way that will make it not kosher, like before, that it will be a like harmed animal in a way that it will be forbidden to eat. And the aspect that comes again and again is to avoid tsar balei chaim, a concept that we talked about in the past. Do you know what the word tsar balei chaim means? Tsar balei chaim is animal suffering. And we're supposed to prevent animal suffering as much as possible. Even though it's allowed to eat the animals, we are supposed to minimize the suffering of the animals. And these rules are connected to make sure that the animal will suffer the least possible. When we do it, we need to cut 2 parts in the. Now, every one of you can. No, don't think of yourself as being led to slaughter, but in our throat, there are 2 parts that need to be cut. It's what we call the kaneh veveshet. The what's the name in English?
Jugularis, maybe.
Huh? Like the 2.
Aorta.
The part that you breathe and the part that you eat. The how it's called, the
I think it's the trachea and the vena jugularis, I think, or maybe aorta, I don't know.
Yeah. So this I need to find actually, because it's I need to say it properly. But windpipe? Really? Oh, is it? You see, I know these words only in Hebrew because I only studied them in Hebrew and I never think about it.
The correct vessels. Vessel.
The vessel.
Vessel.
Yeah. So, anyways, you need to cut them, and to do that, you can see here, השוחט צריך שישחית בשפר ויפסיק בוושת ובקנה. And the Mishnah says explicitly you need to cut these 2. And that's why you have to cut also from a specific angle. If you start, for example, cut from behind, from the neck, then you will harm the animal in a way that it will be unkosher before you reached these 2. And because you have to reach these 2 first, there is a specific angle that you have to do that. Now, cutting, the 5 things you're not allowed to do. One is shehiyah. Shehiyah is the word shiyah in Hebrew is like stalling, like doing something slowly. You're not allowed to. It has to. You're not allowed. No, like you're not allowed to pause. So this has to happen in one go, and not you can't like cut and then make a pause and go and cut back. You have to continuously do the cutting with no pausing until you cut the parts. So that's that's one. The next one is derasa. Derasa comes from that it you have to do it in like back and forth, and not to press. Press. Think about how many times that when you cut. I know how much of you, but when you prepare meat and such, like the one way to slice it very like to press, have pressure and at once. This is not allowed to, because you're not allowed to pressure the animal. Okay, so you can't do it in one go. You have to do like like a sewing. No, how do you, yes, that you go back and forth, and not by one, because then you pressure too much. And that's also why there are rules to the size of the knife, to make sure that it's like double the size of the neck of the animal. That's why it's quite a big knife you have of for shechita. Chalda is like a way of like putting the knife in and then cut it. That's also not allowed. Like, think of the different ways you cut. Hagrama is connected to the place, that it has to be a specific place in the neck. If it's out of the neck, if it's too close to the mouth, or too close to the stomach, or to the lungs, then that's also not allowed. And that's why they always cut in the middle of the neck, to make sure that you're far away from doing it in theory. You could do it in the different places. This is where the joke about that you can't slaughter a giraffe because you don't know where in the neck you're supposed to cut it. That's a joke. It's not right. It's actually, a giraffe will be much easier to cut, because you're further away from the mouth and from the I'm not suggesting you should do it, but I know someone who did. Like, there's a group of people who go around the world and eat every kind of animal that can be kosher. They go and specially make a kosher slaughter to make all of them. They say that it's to go after holiness. I don't know if I'm buying their explanation, but yes. So this is the idea, that the hagrama is that you have to do it far from in the right place in the neck. And ikur, the last part, is that no, not to tear, like not to make any bruises while you do it. And that's the reason that you have to use a sharp knife that doesn't have any pugam, anything that is wrong. This is, for example, one of the reasons I many times when we meet people compare the Muslim slaughter rules and the Jewish slaughter rules, and say, okay, it's the same. No, it's actually very different, because we have rules about the knife that they don't have. And actually, I can tell you that the Muslims in the Muslim organization in England asked the state to demand the Jewish laws of the knives. Like they said, add it because it's not against our rules to demand it, and it will be much better for the animals, because many of them used like small knives and cutting, and that made things longer, and the animals suffered more. But that comes from this reason of the equal, that you're not allowed to have any like risa in Danish, like if you have a small
Thorn. Thorn.
Thorn, yeah, in
Thorn.
the knife that can stop. And when you come to yeah, the tour, Yoreh De'ah, the tour with what came before the Shulchan Aruch, says the knife must be smooth, without nicks. Nicks, these are the thorn, and tested before each shechita. Okay, before each shechita, you have to test the knife to make sure that it's perfect. That's why you would see, if any of you have you met a shochet before? What is the very how can you immediately see that someone is a shochet? It's because they have a long nail. All shochatim has a long nail in their thumb, because they have to check the knife on their own nails before they slaughter. And they do that specific rules exactly how to do it. But that's how you can recognize one that is shochet, if they have a long thumbnail. Until today, you still have that, and I think it's a very important principle that we check it on ourselves before we do the animal. In the past, they did it also to the flesh, but today the knife is so sharp that they stopped, because they would cut, and it would be cut easily. So these are like the basic rules of shechita. I think probably none of you are going to use this a lot. Those of you who maybe one day will want to become shochatim, you will learn much more than only these rules, like in much more details. But these are the principle. Now you know what are the things that they look at when they do the shechita. I should also add that there's a difference here between chickens and behemoth, and like cows and sheep, and all of these animals, that chickens are not checked every time. What they do is because it takes a long time to check the knives, and as you probably know, we eat much more chicken. Like you slaughter much more chickens than you slaughter big animals. Like think of you by I really don't like to talk about all the details, but you know how much probably a person doesn't eat a cow a year, but think how many chickens you ate through a year. Those of you who eat right, so chickens are much cheaper, and you need much more of them. So starting to check the slaughter knife every one will take forever and cost a lot of money. So it will have an effect on the price of the chickens, and that is also an element that is relevant. For what they do is that every a specific amount of time they stop and check the knives, and then if there was anything wrong, they say, okay, all these chickens that we just slaughtered, they are not kosher. they prefer to do it like that than to check every time, because it would take too much. And the big advantage is that if you slaughter something not kosher, it actually doesn't mean so much economically, because you're allowed to sell it to non-Jews. And for non-Jews, it's not forbidden to eat nevela, or to eat this way of the animal, and that's why you're allowed to sell it to non-Jews. So the worst case is that you have to like a whole bunch of chickens sell to non-Jews instead of kosher wife. So that's why they do it like that. In Israel, it's more complicated, but and I have friends. I remember when I studied these rules in the yeshiva, I had friends that said we don't eat chicken from that are kosher in, I don't know, Rabbanut Nahariya, because they were known to do the least checks. Like they really checked so few. It's all like sample. So the question: do you sample one out of 20? Do you sample one out of 3? Do you sample? There are like different methods there, and I had friends who wouldn't eat things that came from specific rabbanuyot that were known to be the most lenient about these rules. So these are the basics. Yeah. Yes, Mayor.
Was there something also? I remember that there was with like the cattle that some like the kosher stamps that they check. They don't check every animal, that they check every 5th, or was it just with the chicken?
I think mainly with the chicken, because the cattle is you don't slaughter as much, like the amount is not as much, but I'm not sure. Like I have to admit, like the last time I looked on these things in practically is when I studied in the yeshiva 16, 17 years ago. So there might have been changes in that world. So I can't say what is the current situation in different rabbanuyot about these things. So it might be an issue, but I don't know. And also, since I stopped eating meat, then even as it's really bothered me in the past, and you can see many times chickens in Israel that you wonder how can they be kosher, because you can see that the chicken has bruises in a way that it's not. It should have been shouldn't been allowed. Like a mashgiach should have stopped that and say this animal was the bruises are so big that they shouldn't be considered. It should have been considered trefa, and how did they allow it? So it's actually it's not as, in that sense, it's not as easy. But you get them frozen, so you can't really, or fresh, but you get them already in a status that you can't really check, right? If you buy chicken wings or chicken breasts, or you don't even see. You have to trust the kosher authorities, right? You can't, and knowing all the details is helps sometimes, but yeah. It's a question. I actually think, to be honest, and I'll show you know what I'll show you the next story that should be the principle of how you're supposed to treat the things. Yeah, so Kayla, fish is, as I said in the beginning, fish doesn't have any rules of shechita. They don't apply. The rules of shechita don't apply to fish, because it's a different kind of animal. It's connected maybe to the idea that they don't have feelings in the same way that other animals have. People talk about the cold blood they have, and like there are different explanations why fish are not under the same category. Yes. So the story that we have from Baba Metzia, one of my favorite stories. I tell many times the story to non-Jews who come to hear about Judaism, especially after the ruling against shechita in Denmark came, because it shows something about the way you're supposed to be as a shochet. So we have ruled that who can be shochet, and it's not every person. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi suffered. It's like story. It comes about discussion about sufferings. It has nothing to do with the kosher rules in Talmud Baba Metzia, and how they came upon him due to an incident. What was that? A certain calf that was being led to slaughter. The calf went and hung its head on the corner of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi and was weeping. So what happened was Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, you know the name? Who was Rabbi Yehuda Nasi? Anyone?
Wasn't he the one who gathered Mishnah?
Yes, thank you. He was one of the greatest rabbis of Jewish history. He was the one around year 200 who was the editor of Mishnah. He was the one to collect and choose what goes into the Mishnah and what does not come in. Really, he set many of the fundamentals that we of Judaism until today. So Rabbi Yehuda Nasi sat and studied in the yeshiva, in the Beit Midrash. That's the right word at the time. You don't use the word yeshiva comes only later in Babylon. In Israel, you say Beit Midrash. He studied in the Beit Midrash. He studied, and a calf was coming who ran away. He was on the way to slaughter, and ran away to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. And Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, and it was weeping. So Rabbi Yehuda Nasi pushed it away and said to it, "Go, as you were created for this purpose." Okay, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi said to the calf, "This is you meant to be to become meat, to be eaten. This is what you were meant to be. So that is go." And then comes they said in the heaven, since he was not compassionate toward the calf, let afflictions come upon him. So now he needed to suffer, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, because of this way of talking. Or see how much like he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't hit the animal. But he wasn't sensitive to the animal. Now the same suffering, they left him after 3 years. The story was, and left him due to another incident. One day, the maidservant of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was sweeping his house. There were young weasels, kakushta, lying about, some kind of a mouse or yeah. And she was in the process of sweeping them out. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi said to her, "Let them be. It is written in the Psalms, and his mercies are over all his works, all his creatures. So we should have also mercy for these weasels." They said in heaven, since he was compassionate, we shall be compassionate on him, and his suffering went away. So yeah, so I'm sorry, I saw the question of Tikva. I think I don't understand the question, so you'll need to explain it if you want. But so this story, I think, reflects very, very beautifully the principle of it doesn't. This story is not a story that supports my direction of being vegetarian. It doesn't say you're supposed to stop eating meat. This story talks about how do you like the way you think, like the way you treat it. The fact that the meat is that you're allowed to eat meat doesn't mean that that we don't care. We can laugh about it. I think many times, and I come from a family that are very loved meat, really loves meat, and they all laugh about me all the time. I'm like the joke of the family. The fact that I'm vegetarian, there's no better joke to talk about than that in every family gathering. And I remember as a child that we talked about the thing like we eat food, not the food of the food. I don't know if you ever heard that saying, right? That I think I heard my father once when he was offered some salad, and he said, "No, I eat food, not the food of the food." This is something that, and I think that saying is very problematic, because this is about how your heart is. Do you treat animals as food, or do you treat animals as animals, and say thank you that you're allowed to eat them because you enjoy them and they give you nutrition and things you need. And that is extremely important. I think that the rules of shechita definitely apply to that direction, that the rules are connected directly to tzar balei chaim, to make the animal suffer less. And one of the things that happened in shechita is when you slaughter, when you cut the throat, you also cut the main blood, how it's called, orakim, what leads blood to the brain. And when you do that, you make the you make the animal lose its conscious and don't feel pain because when you cut it, and that is. And that happened very quickly in shechita, and this is extremely important. That this is part of what we try to do. Yes, Mira.
Hello, I just have a question about fish, because I don't remember the details, but like now, science has found that they feel like much more pain
than they thought. Not
Yes.
much more pain than regular animals or than the humans, but that they do have some pain. Yeah, you're right, and I don't have an answer to solve this because this is what halacha started a long time ago. But I can say that the slaughtering of fish also happened quite quickly. Anyone who is around fish know that you take a fish and you bang it and that's it. So it's. I don't know if you can do something to make it quicker or something, but you don't need the same rules as you have. Also because they suffocate from the air and so you don't have the same situation that you have with animals, that you need rules to make it be quicker and such. So even if the aspect of you could say that they do have feelings, it doesn't mean that they will find any other method to make it quicker, because it's quite quick in advance. But I again, it's something that you said, it's new, the knowledge, and maybe things should be applied in the future for this.
Yeah,
but
you don't necessarily change the. You don't necessarily change the rules for how to slaughter them.
I haven't heard anyone talking about changing these, but because also it's for the other side, it's much easier for us as Jews to follow if the different countries will create rules of you have to slaughter in this specific way to make less pain. Great, we will be all for, because it doesn't stand against. While other rules of that that we have. For example, in Denmark, they apply the rule that you have to give a stunning to the animal before slaughtering. This is something that makes it impossible to slaughter kosher-wise. So we have much more difficulties, but we don't have any issues with the new rule that will come to fish if they come. And I would even say that this is something that the rabbi will say, if someone comes with a method that is better and less suffering for the fish, it should be demanded if you can. Yeah. Good, but let's go to the second part. Again, something that today you don't do, but almost and no one does, except one aspect. It goes from the fact of you should not eat any blood. Kol dam lo tochelu, it says in Vayikra, in the Torah, and this is why when you first of all, when you slaughter the animal, you drain it from blood immediately. It's very important what I say now. You have two aspects of blood: the blood that goes immediately out of when you slaughter the animal and you cut it so it bleeds out. And many times they will hang the animal to make sure that the blood will go down as much as possible. And then you have the blood that is still in the meat. Any one of you who ate who ate animal, who ate meat, know that there's when you prepare it, you still have red fluids coming out of it, right? Those of you who tried not kosher meat, then there's much more blood in it. But even if you salt it, you still have some red fluids within. And in theory, you would say that then you're not allowed to eat meat because there's some kind of blood still inside. But the rule there, the rabbis go to that the Torah lo nitna lemalachei sharet. The Torah wasn't given to angels who do things perfectly. It has to be something reasonable that is possible. So we take as much blood out that we can. And here we have the two, I would say the two main ways that you do it today. One is melicha, salting, and the other is tzliya, roasting in flame. So when you do melicha, there are 3 steps: rinsing, salting, and rinsing again. Okay, so you take a piece of meat, rinse it with wash it with water, take it out like the blood that is on the surface. Then you cover it with salt. I don't know if any of you read a recipe in the US where it says you have to add kosher salt. Did you see? I know that Gil, the one who sells have the kosher shop in Denmark, he said at least once every week or 2 weeks, someone comes in the shop and I ask, "Do you have kosher salt?" Because they had the recipe, and then they said, like a Dane that's read that he has to have kosher salt, and he couldn't find any kosher salt in Denmark, so he goes to the kosher shop to buy kosher salt. And as probably most of you know, what is kosher salt?
It's the groove one, the big, the small, big.
Yes,
big grains.
Groft salt, the salt that is the big pieces. I don't know how it's called in English. Actually, in English, it's called kosher salt in the US. And the reason it's called kosher salt is not because there's something kosher about it, but because it is used to kosher animals. So it was used for that, and it has to be a specific. The pieces are not allowed to be too big, because then they don't stick to the meat, and if it's too small, it doesn't have the same effect. It doesn't take the blood out, and it's the salt like melts into the meat. So this is so you put this, you cover the meat, and then let it like stay for an hour, and it drain the salt out. Like you can see it. I remember my mother in Israel had a special bowl she used for kashering that had like a net, and then and the meat stood, because you can't and then there was lots of blood, like really you could see how much blood goes out. That's, by the way, the reason they say kosher meat. I remember in Israel they said a non-kosher restaurant will ever get a Michelin star, and the reason is because the meat is salted, so to ruin the meat, taking out the blood, which is like so juicy and tasty, and it's supposed to be so good. Other people prefer, I heard non-Jews in Denmark that prefer kosher chickens because it's so tasty, and they don't understand it's so tasty just because it's very salty, because they had lots of salt on them, and people like salt, so you can just salt more. But so you cover, take it out, and then you have to rinse again both the salt and the rest of the blood. This is like the very, very basics, okay? And as I said, almost no one does it today. There's one place where you do need these rules of taking the blood out. Anyone knows?
The liver.
Yes, exactly. Very favorite Ashkenazi thing is what you do with the liver. And the reason is because the rabbi said the liver is basically all blood. Like it's like thick blood, and you can't salt it out. Like there's no such thing. There is one opinion that says that you can, but the halacha doesn't follow him. Rabbeinu Tam says it in the Tosfot, but they don't accept it. So today the only way to make liver kosher is through roasting, so the litzlot. Because when you roast, also you know that, right? When you roast, when you roast anything, how much fluids go out of the meat. So when liver is the place that you can't buy it kosher, like you can't buy, except if someone else already roasted it and it's ready. But if you make a homemade liver, and then you have to do this. And I remember again from my home how much the house stank when my mother roasted the liver. It was like completely time. But you can do that you can do it in the oven. You can do it in also in the,
are you sure? Because I read that it's not possible to do it in the oven, because otherwise your oven is not kosher anymore.
Yes, so you read wrong. No, there are opinions. You're right, Paula, that there are opinions to say that, but it's the main thing is that it's not it doesn't create it. There are some who say that you have to open the oven a bit. Wow, there are some opinions because of the suggestion that you said, that because it will cook the blood. The blood will be. Yeah, but the main opinion is that you're not that it doesn't do that. So it is possible, but the best thing is on direct fire. You can do it also on the like on a barbecue, like just on fire, and then it also drains the blood out. There's one advantage to roasting, that roasting actually works also after. You see here that the rules are the exceptions, that it must be salted within 3 days after slaughtering. But if it's roasting, then you can do it also later. So the fire is considered to be stronger to take the blood out, and that you're also allowed to do later than 3 days. And of course, yeah, these are the really main. I touched the basics. The much more, if any of you want to dig deeper, there's much more. I would suggest, just as always, to read the Pnei Halacha, where he writes all the details of these rules. I can also add. Again, there are much more details, but we don't need all of them. One of you have a bracha also for that you say before you slaughter. If you slaughter a few, then you say one bracha for all of them. But maybe a very important part, I remember discussing about it in when you talk about slaughtering, and maybe this is one thing you can take with you, that when we talk about the Jewish slaughtering, you say many times in English, you say ritual slaughtering, right? Ritual slakting in Danish. This is what, and this is actually very wrong to use this term. Why is it wrong? Why is it wrong to say ritual slaughtering?
Because maybe rituals looks like we are, yeah, like, I don't know, Avodah Zarah. Sounds like Avodah Zarah, you're making something strange, and it's just one process or maybe one instruction. So we know that in that way, will suffer less.
Yeah, so but exactly. It's because it is not a ritual. We have ritual of working with meat in the temple. But also there, you have a shechita first, like you slaughter the animal, and then you do all the different things you're supposed to do with the. But the ritual is not a shechita. A shechita is not. It's not a ritual thing to kill an animal. We have a bracha. The bracha is to do it the right way. But the bracha is not that we bless the fact that we slaughter. We say bracha that we bless the fact that we do slaughter that we do the mitzvah of shechita in the right way, to doing it the right way, but it's not a ritual, and that is extremely important. We have a Jewish slaughtering method, like we have rules of how to slaughter in order to keep the rules of the not eating the blood and for the animal not to suffer. This is the rules of slaughtering, and for me, this is a very important message that I think I went through also today. That when shechita was forbidden in Denmark 11 years ago, the reasoning that the minister said it was that we value the animal welfare. The animal well-being higher than religious freedom. And I confront him and I said, you can very clearly you don't know what Jewish slaughtering is, because if you say that these thing contradicts, you haven't you don't know what it is, because it's about animal suffering. Like this is the Jewish slaughtering method. It's not a ritual. It's not something we do to. It's something that the rules were created to for the animals to that they don't suffer. And I can tell you that the one rule that is maybe the most important rule of them all. I talked with the biggest expert in the world on animal suffering. I urge all of you to watch a movie you can find it in HBO, not about ritual slaughtering, but something about the animal well-being. and it's a movie about Temple Grandin. Temple Grandin, she was the first woman with autism to get a big PhD, the first in the world, and she is the biggest expert in the world on animal suffering. And there's a beautiful movie about her that you can find in HBO, or I urge you to watch it. I think very inspiring. But we spoke to her when we had the challenges about shechita, and what she said was that the one rule of the Jewish slaughtering that is more important than anything else, and that is that you're not allowed to slaughter an animal in front of another one. So we have to slaughter one at a time. And that rule, because she said that the biggest suffering to the animal is a stress factor. When they stress, they and watching the slaughter and doing it in front of us, that's like doing that, which is impossible to implement in general slaughtering, because no one will accept to do it because it costs too much. It's about how quick you can slaughter as many as possible. This is how the whole system is built. Having this rule is like makes already she said there are a few things about the kosher method that she would prefer to have a stunning first, but if she comes to what is more important, so this adds actually much more than the other demand that some countries put to slaughtering. So I have here a support from the biggest expert in the world on animal suffering, that the kosher method it's good. She thinks that it could be better, but it's when you consider the whole thing, that the rules are very good, and if they are followed as they're supposed to, it prevents lots of suffering. And this is what we after. This is a method and not a ritual. Yes, Mikkel, last question for today.
It's just, have you attended a slaughtering yourself, a kosher slaughtering?
I saw one.
Okay, I attended actually more than 20 in Israel, and I attended a lot in Denmark. And the reason why the Danish ministry actually forbid it was, like you just said, the last part. That's also what is very hard for me, is it's supposed to be, or it should be, but in their business, because there's so many things happen in the slaughteries, the process is so quick, so they want to make sure that it's an equal standard. So actually the Danish one is not that, I mean, I heard a lot of bad things about it, but the reason why, when you use a bolt pistol, you're sure the animal is brain dead. There's no feelings left, and there's rules about that. I don't like the electricity killing, if you slaughter the sheeps, whatever, but if you've seen it, they attach the high power electricity to the head, because some of them also miss. But the reason why this came into practice was when you use the bolt pistol, everything is gone in a second.
Yes, but also
the reason why that's one of the reasons why I became a vegetarian after I worked on the slaughteries. I have seen so much killing, and if you've seen on the movie on the Finland on the roof, I remember he entered the slaughter's home, and he said, "Wow, you got all these goods for killing innocent animals." You remember that movie?
Yes, of course.
That's just my point. So I'm just saying there's so many
but
ways to it. And I was hoping that people will meet in the middle way. But when it comes to halakha, we don't change anything, because the reason why, when I asked this in Yeshiva 20 years ago, they said that who can change our custom from this, I forgot how to pronounce it the right way, Sanhedrin, the high court. Nobody wants to be the one to change that, but they know that there is something right about looking into this, because not all kosher slaughter is good. Like you just said, you cannot be sure when you look at the stamp that the animal was treated in the right manner. And that's the whole reason why I stopped eating meat, because you cannot be sure when you just buy a prepared meal or chicken breast, whatever. So
yeah, so I would say thank you, Michael.
Yes.
I agree, and the main thing here is actually demanding a higher standard from the rabbinical authorities that is supposed to follow. If you follow halachically the shechita rules, then it will be good. But people going after the money and the needs, it's actually a challenge. So I agree, and it should have been much better. Yes, Esther?
When the Beit HaMikdash is going to be built, we all have to bring sacrifices of animals. We have just read the Parashat Shavua, Tazria and Metzora, and there is all about these things that what kind of animal, and if somebody is poor, then this and this and this. But the thing is this, that what happens to our soul, I understand if I've been also thinking what meat is really kosher, so that I don't accidentally eat non-kosher meat. So what kind of an effect to the Jewish soul is unkosher meat? Can you explain that?
No, I can't explain what effect is non-kosher meat. Non-kosher meat is forbidden. I don't know what effect it has on the soul or not. I know the rules. And in that sense, yes, you're right that there people can talk about the ideas and such, but the rules are forbidden, so it's forbidden, and that's it. Like I don't I don't need to speculate what it makes to what effect it had on the soul, because I won't come to a situation that if by mistake someone tricked me to eat something not kosher, I don't think that it will have an effect on my soul. It would just be and actually people do that. I think like sometimes people do tricks with giving someone like a bouillon as a like this chicken meat soup or something as a sweet, and you by mistake, and then you eat it. It's a bouillon. It's not a. And I had people in the community that was the first time ever they ate something non-kosher, because someone thought they did a joke, but you just this happens, like and if something like that happened by mistake, you don't want to do it, then does it affect your soul? That you should ask those who are mystical Judaism, and I'm less there. Maybe Moshe David has more answers about the mystical parts of Judaism, and this is what we will talk about in the seminar in a few weeks. So there we can talk about a bit more about mysticism and Judaism. So that will be an answer for that. And thank you so much for today. We'll see you in Shavua Tov. Great seeing you.
Shavua Tov.
תודה, שבוע טוב.
Shavua Tov.
Well,
Shavua Tov.